Now that Canon's released the C50, does the Sony FX3 still hold the crown as the best small cinema camera you can buy? Let's go test and compare and find out. And just to be clear, I rented and then purchased the Canon C50 myself and borrowed the FX3 from a friend to do this comparison. Now to start off with, while it seems like these are very similar cameras, they're actually really different. You have a 12 megapixel sensor here that's capable of 4K, 4K 120, like XAVC All-I, which is what I shot almost all this video in, at 10-bit S-Cinetone, all of that. Whereas with the C50, you have a 33 megapixel that's capable of not only filming downsampled 7K into 4K, which looks fantastic, but you're also capable of doing 4K 120 if you want to. And it also does 3x2 open gate, which is super important if you're going to do a few things that we'll get into in just a little bit. But it does also film 7K Canon RAW Lite or Canon RAW HQ. If you really want to eat up memory space, you can. But the C50 is like, Canon has given us given people who own the C50 an incredible number of options. This comparison was much more difficult to do than I expected. There are some obvious places where the Canon C50 just blows the FX3 out of the water. But honestly, even though the FX3 is 4 or 5 years old now, it still really puts out a great image. And that's something that's really true of any cameras released in the last few years. They're all really fantastic. It comes down to more which lenses you might already be invested in or which workflow you prefer, but honestly, it's really hard to come away with a bad image out of either one of these cameras now. But we are here to compare these two cameras. Now when it comes to color science, I don't really want to dive into that too much because if you're filming in log and you're color grading, it doesn't really matter. That being said, Sony has really accurate colors, and especially in my orange jacket, it looks very true to what it looks like in real life. Now, Canon has, I would say, accurate colors that are flattering and lean a little bit more warm, which definitely helps on skin tones, even when you're walking around out in the cold. And the one thing I've noticed with Canon is that the blacks always seem a little bit more true black. And I don't know if that's an IR pollution thing or if that's just the way Canon tunes their sensors, but the deep blacks especially just feel more black. Now the one area where the C50 just blows the FX3 out of the water is when it comes to the 7K open gate recording, because it does give you a lot more detail. When it comes to the 4K 30, it's a little bit harder to tell, but as soon as you put it in that 7K mode, whether you're filming RAW or whether you're filming one of the compressed modes, but you're filming in that 7K open gate, there is substantially more detail. And especially in the image when you zoom in, you can just see it, like, it looks so much more detailed. Even when you don't zoom in, it has a lot more information to work with. And that shouldn't be surprising. It's a lot more information to begin with. But one of the things that the FX3 and the A7S III were hailed for when they first came out was their excellent low light performance. I love ice caves. They are so freaking cool. And they're also a great place to test low light. So right now we're at the base ISO, the low base ISO of each. But I think we can go do the high base ISO. This cave is giant. At their high base ISOs, they both perform well and both look pretty clean and pretty good. But then I decided I needed to try out a higher ISO, so I went to 25,600 and tried that out. And honestly, both of them look pretty good. The one big difference I would say is that Canon gives you more control over their noise reduction, whereas Sony doesn't give you any control over it. So honestly, like, the Canon really surprised me in low light. It performed much better than I expected. And that brings us to dynamic range. And honestly, filming in both of their high dynamic range log profiles, C-Log2 for the Canon, S-Log3 for the Sony, I didn't see a huge difference. This shot here is about as high dynamic range as you can get. Bright white snow outside, dark shadows inside, and they both look really good. Another big advantage for the Canon C50 is the fact that it films in open gate. Now, this might not be useful for you depending on how you film, but if you're somebody who produces stuff for social media quite a bit, or you film like I do, both a wide format and a vertical format at the same time when you're doing sit-down interviews, having the C50's open gate does make your life a little easier, but also the C50 can film the normal 16:9 wide and a 9:16 vertical at the same time in two different cards, which makes it really useful if you're moving quickly and trying to film things really quickly. One of the things you'll notice about the fact that the C50 can film in 3:2 mode is that you can use anamorphic lenses at a much higher squeeze ratio. So right now I'm using the Blazar Kato 2X. And what you'll notice in the background is that the lights behind me, the bokeh, is a much more oval shaped bokeh than the Sirui 1.33x on a 16:9. And the reason you want to do that is because if you don't, then you're going to lose a lot of data on the sides, or you'll end up with this insanely wide screen, which is wider than anybody ever needs. So 1.33x squeeze works great on 16:9 sensors. It doesn't work as well to get the good, proper, like, anamorphic bokeh in the background where you get those really oval bokehs. And it just doesn't give you the same squeeze factor unless you want to cut off a lot on the sides. Where the 2X, because the C50 films in 3:2 mode, gives you the option to be able to get that better anamorphic D-squeeze ratio and still keep almost all of your information off the sensor. Both of these cameras actually have really good focus. They both lock onto your eye really quickly. I mean, maybe the edge goes to the Canon just because it's much newer, but honestly, like, they both do a really good job and rack focused really well. And you can set that up. They both give you a lot of flexibility as far as if you want to have them rack faster or slower, but they both lock onto a subject really well, which makes them really useful in things like interviews, places where you're operating by yourself and you want to be able to just set the focus on a person and let the camera operate on its own as a B camera or C camera even, then it's super important, and they both do a fantastic job of that. For stabilization, I used a lens with optical image stabilization and put it on mechanical stabilization only. But because the FX3 has IBIS, it does get a little bit better. Then if you add electronic stabilization to both of them, they crop in just a tiny bit and give you a little bit better stabilization. The C50 also includes a couple other levels of digital stabilization. So you go from standard to high, which definitely gives you a little bit better stabilization and looks pretty good. But then they also have this motion vector stabilization where I believe the camera is trying to anticipate what's happening, and it does a better job. But then the big thing that both of these cameras can do is they can stabilize in post using something like gyroflow. So if you want to do that in your workflow, you can get really, really stable results. When it comes to rolling shutter, the FX3 wins. It has a rolling shutter down in like the 7 or 8 millisecond range, if I remember right. But the C50 is no slouch, and I was surprised there wasn't a larger difference. It's in the teens, depending on the mode you shoot in, and it looks really good. So when it comes to size, the FX3 still holds a slight advantage. It's a little thinner, but other than that, they're pretty close, but it definitely is a little on the thinner side, and it is a little bit lighter. Now, when it comes to user ergonomics, I actually find that I like the C50 a little bit better just because it has a little deeper grip, and I have fairly large hands, so it makes it a little bit nicer. This cage helps a little bit, but I found that I just enjoy this ergonomics a little bit better, and I love having the record button right here. Now, both of these cameras have a lot of user customizable and programmable buttons that give you access to a lot of things really quickly, both in front, although the C50 I think has a couple more, actually, or a few more. The C50 actually has quite a few user programmable buttons. And they both have intelligent hot shoes that you can plug various things in. Now, the C50 has this really nice mic handle that I think is one of the best small mic handles I've ever seen on a camera. The FX3 also has a mic handle. I didn't get it for this, or I didn't have it, but it is a good mic handle. It's just ergonomically or design-wise, I don't like it nearly as much as I like the C50 microphone handle. Aside from the mic handle, one area where Canon is lagging behind is options for this multi-input hot shoe up here. Sony has a bunch of microphones like these that allow you to get great audio straight into the camera, and even DJI makes a little adapter for their little Mic 2 system or Mic Mini system or Mic 3 system that allows you to go straight in through the hot shoe, no wires, no cables, no nothing. It's digital, so you get super clean audio path. I really hope that Canon gets on top of that for not just this camera, but any cameras with the multi-interface hot shoe, because it's a super convenient way for people who create content to be able to get good, clean audio no matter what. Now, they both do have tally lights front. The C50 actually has one on the side showing you which card it's writing to. And of course, on the rear, they both have tally lights there as well. One thing the FX3 definitely has going for it is this Sony Big 6 simplified menu system. This isn't even the Big 6, but this has some really great options that makes it super easy to just get around and get to the few settings that you access a lot. The C50 has a decent menu system, but you're going to go through, at least on the cinema side, you're really going through a lot. Now, you can set up your own menu with the things that you use the most, and that does make a big difference, but it is still a incredibly deep menu system on the C50. One thing the C50 has over the FX3 is the screen, and this is generally across Canon cameras and versus Sony cameras, is the screens on Canon cameras are just much better. They're a much better level of detail. They just look better. I don't know how else to describe it, and I doubt it'll come across in this, but the screens on the C50 or the R5 Mark II or any of the Canon cameras are really, really fantastic. They are so nice to be able to use in real-world situations. And of course, they both have this flip-out rotating screen. I'll be curious to see if on the FX4, FX3 Mark II, whatever that is, if they use that same vari-angle screen that's been used on the A7 V, the A7R5, the A7 V, the A9 Mark III, the A1 Mark II, because that is a really nice system. It just still is unfortunate that the screens Sony uses are not that great. Now, when it comes to memory, Sony has a great system where you can use either CF Express Type A cards that go in like this, or you can use SD cards that go in the other way. So it's a dual slot. There's two slots, and you can use either card in either one, which is actually really nice. Canon, on the other hand, went with a CF Express Type B card, which is nice because they're relatively inexpensive, and an SD card. So you have two different types of card slots, and they're not cross-compatible. You have to use that type of card in that card slot. That being said, I do like the CF Express Type B cards because of how fast they offload footage, which is really nice, and you do need to use those cards for some of the raw recordings. One area where I like what Sony's doing better is the way you access the doors. These little flip-out doors here that give you access to microphone ports or HDMI port are just, I like those little flip-out doors. With Canon, you've got these flaps that you have to pull out and then kind of set aside, and I'm not as much of a fan of those. Like, there's a USB port. They both have a full-size HDMI, which is great, but just not as much of a fan of that. But the C50 does have a dedicated timecode port, which is important if you're wanting to synchronize your cameras across. You can feed timecode into the FX3, but you have to get a cable that goes into the micro USB and then set it up, which you can do. It just is a little bit different workflow, and I prefer the way that the C50 works because it's similar to the way other cinema cameras work, and that I guess I'm probably just used to that. There is one more place that the FX3 beats the C50, and that's in battery life. If you're just using the LP6P batteries, which are the ones you have to use to be able to unlock all the frame rates, you're going to get maybe about an hour of runtime, maybe a little more, a little less, depending on the frame rate that you actually are recording in. Whereas with the Sony FX3, if you're using the FWZ100 batteries, which are batteries Sony's been using for a little while now, which are actually really good, and will give you about 90 minutes of runtime in 4K 24. And all this is dependent on the resolutions and frame rates and stuff like that you're shooting, but you do get a little bit better battery life on the FX3 than you do on the C50. This camera is fantastic. It is really solid. Even takes pretty good photos. But if I'm doing more hybrid work like that, my R5 Mark II is probably the camera I'd use. But for a dedicated video camera, this thing is fantastic. Man, with that mic handle and everything else, it almost replaces my FX6, which I might do a comparison of these two cameras as well. But next, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of these two cameras? Do you use either one? I mean, it's kind of not fair. I'm sure Sony's going to come out with something great in the FX4 or whatever that next iteration of that camera is, because that's the way camera technology goes. And honestly, if you have either one of these cameras, if you have almost any camera made in the last 4 or 5 years, you have a fantastic camera, and you probably don't even need to upgrade unless you need certain features that the FX or the C50 will offer. But next, you're going to watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below, or join my live stream, which happens most Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We can have more of a conversation. You can yell at me about how wrong I was on one of these cameras. I'll see you again soon in the next one. Cheers.